All right, shalom, and welcome to another Bible study that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. My name is Esaac ben Israel, and I am the elder priest of the United Congregation of Israel. And I am joined here with the under priest, Priest Kish. Shalom, my brother.
Shalom.
All right. Just opening up, saying, elder priest, we were talking, just how fast the time, goes, man.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem that long ago that, I was going into, my elder office to just, hang out there. And it was full of brothers, down there sweating to death in there. And, I'm really glad that we had opportunity to do those things. A lot of things that we end up taking for granted. And when they're gone, you end up with a whole lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas. And you don't want to end up in that. You want to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And, these situations of being able to ask questions, it helps. And even when someone else asks a question, it ends up helping the individuals who didn't even ask. So then we have to consider some things that we think we know. Then as you get to go into it and you realize I knew it, but not on that level. And excuse me, that's what going into my elder's office helped me realize. Even the things that I knew, I realized that there was another aspect, there was another avenue, there was a whole nother, way of looking at, those things, and it causes you to grow all the way around. So we got a couple questions that I want to get into. The first one, of course, after we've done, the things of past Sabbath, we ended up, of course, going into this whole thing about, the angels and how, you have this name of Azazel. You have all of these, even the Arabic have their own version of these things. And our first question says, can you please talk about the death angel from a Hebrew perspective? Well, there's a whole lot of situations. When I hear that, I go somewhere, because my elder used to talk about how there was this individual who called himself, YBY, and when they were doing their things, they would say, his father has death angels, and these people were out, doing their thing, and so I can't help but, because the first time I ever heard anything like that, that's where I heard it from. And it was, it traumatized a whole lot of people down in that area who were around that way. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people, after seeing how things were done, they would never come to this word whatsoever. I remember having a conversation with you, and you was like, had you associated this with that, you would have never stepped foot in it. So it is amazing how Yahweh knows exactly when to blind you and when to open your eyes. We can't imagine that there's a positive part of us not seeing something. We are so nosy that we believe that every information that is available in life is somehow our duty to have. It never does occur to us that you may end up knowing the wrong thing and it might get you killed. Case in point, there was this, you can eat from all these trees. Do not eat from that one. What do we want to do? No matter all of this stuff in this beautiful garden, all right? What we are curious about is the one we can't have, all right? And then it's like, this curiosity leads us down another little rabbit hole that we might find ourselves stuck in and cannot get out of. So we have to understand that part of that is a part of Yahweh's, growth. I realized that there were times that Yahweh was holding something from me, and because it wasn't time, this other individual over here had not done the things that they, needed to do, and point blank, obviously Yahweh was like, oh, no, let them do it. So to do that, he has to hold you back. It reminds me of the situation where the Shunammite woman was hurt because something had happened with her child. And the prophet says, something has happened to her and Yahweh has hid it from me. So you have this man who has, all this power, but then it comes to this specific woman who he has helped, and Yahweh won't show him that particular thing. So that when she did come and bring her grief, he felt all of it because he did not know anything of it right away. So we have to just get that concept. Yahweh does not want you to know everything. All right. There are things in the prophecies that he told Daniel. All right. Don't write that down. Look, don't worry of that right there. You have to think there's certain parts where it says of that I cannot now speak particularly. What do you mean you can't? And when we don't get that's there, we then begin to get ourselves in trouble. Now, why do I even say that before I go into anything? Why do you believe so many people have grabbed hold of these Gnostic books that's giving all of this explanation? It is our own vanity that makes us think that we need to know everything about everything. It's like this didn't, impact your life. The person who's, did it ain't even in your life now. But we think that we deserve to have all of these answers. So then what happens? We're now at a place where we can be persuaded by one of these Gnostic books that somebody has put together. Now we can be persuaded because it's something that we wanted to know and nobody else offered us any information. And then here comes this book and they put all of this crazy detail. I mean, details that you could not believe and probably should not believe. And then that leads you somewhere. So first question, can you please talk about the death angel from a Hebrew perspective? What things warrant our Elohim to grant access when it comes to his children or those who think they belong to him? All right, so I want to start in Exodus chapter 12. Because the first thing we have to do is make sure that we don't limit Yahweh. The earth and the fullness therein belongs to him. It's not just about a situation of his children. Now, when it comes down to discipline, you don't discipline a child by killing it. When you're disciplining something, you're allowing something to happen to it, but it has to have the opportunity to be restored if the purpose of the discipline is to make it stand upright. I can't break, my kid's legs and then say, stand up straight. How am I gonna stand up straight? You disciplined me so hard, my legs broke. So there has to be a limit and a purpose to those things. So Exodus chapter 12, and go ahead and start at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Now, if Enoch had a calendar, why didn't he mention that when he started talking about the beginning of the month? So this is what I'm talking about the desire to hear other things is what leads you to being overcome, wanting to buy, a gold chain at a cheap price is what leads you to buy that fake gold at Quick Trip. Go ahead.
Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats.
So then we're talking about the first fruits. The first of your it shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Okay, go ahead.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
Now, there are concepts being set here, okay, that there is no atonement without this blood, okay? This blood that covers the doorpost is covering them. All right, they are covered by the blood of the Lamb, naturally. When we get baptized in the name of Yeshua, now we're covered under the blood of the Lamb, spiritual. Okay, so this is naturally under the blood. Baptism is spiritually under the blood. So understand the concepts that is being made here. They don't understand anything about animal sacrifice. They're in a foreign land. But now he's about to make an atonement, and he has them to shed this blood. Now, here's another, thing that you have to, really get in your mind about dealing with the Passover. All these other things are the priests are doing these things. When it come down to Passover, everybody doing. Mm-hmm. Now, that is quite interesting. Okay? It is quite interesting when it comes down to this, because this is the beginning of everything with Israel, and all of these houses have to participate. Now remember, he said, you shall be a kingdom of priests. Sure. So here we go in the beginning of kingdom of priests. Everybody is doing priest work right here. But he hadn't explained that, though. He hadn't explained that they're doing priest work right now. Everybody. And how are they doing it? And where are they doing it? They're in a land controlled by other people. Where would this implementation of a kingdom of priests be? Outside of Israel. Inside of Israel, the Levites are that. Well, who's going to teach the nations? So you see there are concepts going on here that you don't get into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time you go into something. But if you don't have it in you to go over it that many times, you're going to go over it the 2nd or 3rd time and say, I got this. I got this. So you'll never get the 6, 7, and bits and pieces start coming out. And you say, whoa. What was that? So, be careful of that. Go ahead.
You see, and this is where you can also look for that people forgetting their place. When Miriam goes, aren't we all holy? Uh-huh. Because what? They all did sacrifice.
Yes.
So we're going to have to remember, you're a kingdom of priests, but when you back in the land, you are not the priest of the land.
Right.
Remember your position when you back is, hey, when you're on the job, you might be a supervisor. That don't mean you leave off the job and you walk on somebody else's property and think you a supervisor.
Right. Well, they say, give us a little rope, we won't be a cowboy. We were rustling up cattle in somebody else's yard. What you doing over here? You don't live here. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread. And with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Mm-hmm. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I'll pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am Yah.
All right. So when you start talking about, this thing of a death angel, we have to also understand that most of what we know about that is going to be folklore. So there ain't but so far, I'll go with certain things, because at a certain point, you have to basically guess on certain things, and it's like, why would I put that out there? Or of course you can get one of those Gnostic books, and then you don't have to guess anymore, because they explain everything. They told you what color socks he had on. Like, who cares? Go ahead.
And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I'll pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever
All right, that's as far as I want to go right there. So what we got to get is Yahweh coming through saying that there is about to be a serious shedding of blood, and then they're covered under blood to keep them from spilling their own blood. It is the blood that covers them. So we have to get that concept when you talk about something about a death angel, and why would that be necessary? Go ahead.
I'm just looking at what Yahweh says, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you. He said it was going to be a plague.
You right?
All right.
But here's the thing: there's certain things that we attach to entities, and we really don't know how that is being implemented. Even when Yahweh says, I'm going to send my angel to go before you and lead you in the way, don't provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. So being that, his name was in him, he never spoke anything whatsoever about his name. When the angel spoke, he says, thus says Yahweh. He didn't speak in his own name. So this is one of those things that we have to first deal with when we're going to, entertain this situation about a specific, death angel, which may be, that angel's job. But please don't get it twisted and think another angel couldn't kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you're not the death angel. No, you're the one who bring, goodness and light. So I'm wanting goodness and light. I am going to shed light. I'm just going to cut your head off so you can see it better. How about that? So don't get it twisted and think that, they're limited. This is one of those things when we get into that, then we start getting right back into that folklore, because, all these gods had different attributes. You got the God of love. You got the God of war. You got all of these things. This helps our people go back into that and helps them play a little bit. Okay? This is what that does. So, just be careful with that.
I mean, even when you look at the return of Yahshua, he's not by himself.
No.
So what are you saying? All these other entities can't fight? They just coming to stand and look? No, those they bring in death too.
Right. And I guarantee you, all of them ain't named death angels. I mean, it's an innumerable company. So we're talking about some serious stuff going down, and we don't specifically know what their jobs is, what their jobs are. We know certain ones. This is what this one does. This is what this one does. But when we get to the point that we start having a thirst for certain kinds of information, it may open you up to read one of those other things. So be very careful about that. Let's go to Exodus chapter 13.
Exodus 13.
Yeah, and I want to... start at verse 12.
That you shall set apart unto Yahweh all that opens the matrix, and every firstling that comes of a beast which you have, the male shall be Yahweh's.
Now remember, now you have to think about, sometimes Yahweh does something and he does not explain it, and you don't see that concept until later. So what'll happen is sometimes we'll think that when he does explain it, this is the reason for that. And later on you found out that that's a reason for that, not the reason for that. Go ahead.
And every firstling of an ass you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you will not redeem it, then you shall break his neck. And all the firstborn of man among your children shall you redeem.
And if you redeem them, then you don't have to sacrifice them. Go ahead.
And it shall be, when your son asks you in time to come, saying, What is this? That you shall say unto him, By strength of hand Yahweh brought us out from Egypt, from the house of bondage. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that Yahweh slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beasts. Therefore I sacrifice unto Yahweh all that opens the matrix.
Now,
matrix being males.
So is this because of this, or did Yahweh already have a standard, and now Egypt's got to pay that standard price? Give me your firstborn. We have to consider something. Yahweh had already spied out Canaan land as a land that he had spied out for himself. The Canaanites, the people who we know as Africans, they were already there. So when you come down to Israel getting it, Israel had to execute judgment and thus shed blood in the land. Part of shedding the blood is a part of getting the land. When you look at, things and people will say, where the saints, must take the kingdom. You have to understand, we're so busy thinking about the taking of something, we're forgetting what has to happen. Blood must be shed to make an atonement for sin. According to what's written, only by the blood of him who defiled the land can the land be cleansed. Okay, so then when Yahweh orders you to go in that land and kill this people, these people, these people, these people, this people, this people, that people, understand what he's doing. You can't live right in this land because the land is full of sin, but the land can have atonement if you shed this blood, this blood, this blood, not that blood, this blood, this blood. Why is that? That specific blood has to be shed to cleanse that land. See, we don't get all of that. So then when a king decides that, well, I'm not going to kill everything that breathes because, I'm going to keep the best part alive for you. Mm-hmm. You understand what you just did? This whole section right here did not get atoned for. Do you understand now what kind of evil is going to happen for the next couple of centuries right here because you didn't follow your instructions? Because we try to surmise what we think something may be for. And then once we do that, we say, well, I don't have to kill everything. I mean, I kept the best alive for Yahweh. But then the blood was not shed to make an atonement, which then means that the land was not cleansed, which then means when you got in it, guess what you got to deal with? The sin that was there before you got it. And we don't even consider any of that. But we're looking at the situation, and I know that grabs everybody's attention about the death angel. Understand, there's a certain amount of death that has to happen if the next group is going to walk in righteous. The blood has to be shed. So consider that and understand that we can't limit that to a specific group of angels. Because understand, Yahweh made us do it. he made up. What he said, who's on Yahweh's side?
Mm-hmm.
Who on Yahweh's side? And when he said who on Yahweh's side, Israel had to turn around. This is how the Levites, got to be priests.
Yep.
They chose, all right, we on Yahweh's side, 'cause let's take care of this business. So they start killing their own people. So did we become death angels? So we cannot take righteous judgment and atonement out of that conversation, or we put all of that on this death angel. Like this individual is so important. No, the star of this show is Yahweh. Okay? Whatever angel he get to do a job is just an angel who he got to do the job. But don't allow these things to cause you to lose focus of that. Go ahead.
And that comes through too when you think about the fact that, Yeshua said, don't you think that I can call my father and he sent 12 legions of angels?
Legions.
And even when you look at the word, it says Yahweh of hosts. A host, that word is warfare. It's an army. It's they're warriors. And so I think, we tend to look at angels the fluffy way to,
that's where they look in Vacation Bible School. I went to, when you go to VBS and you get them cookies and that little juice, all the angels they was nice. They was all glowing. You know what I'm saying? They had just got their wings out the cleaners. You know what I'm saying? Everything was spectacular. Right. All right. But then there are jobs that have to be done here. Go ahead.
And even when we were told, the angel will lead you, but, don't you
Provoke him.
Don't you provoke him? He will not pardon you. Okay, he's telling you right there. He has the capacity to correct you on the spot, and
right,
maybe to kill you.
Exactly, shedding blood right there, and he don't have to ask. He don't have to petition Yahweh. Yahweh, I sent you a text message. I want to kill Esaac. Is that okay? Now, step out of line if you want to. The angel I don't care nothing about you anyway. He the one that care about you. I follow the instructions. The instructions said, whoever do this, they die. Don't think that angel got to call back and ask Yahweh. All right? The authority is given in the job. So that's something that we have to truly consider. Go ahead.
But all the firstborn of my children I redeem. Verse 16. And it shall be for a token upon your hand and for frontlets between your eyes. For by strength of hand Yahweh brought us forth out of Egypt.
All right. So when we understand this whole thing about the firstborn, or the first fruit, because that's what, this child, this first one, that's the fruit of your loins. The fruit, all right? First fruit. So when you consider this whole situation between Cain and Abel, you have the first fruit being offered versus just something that was given. So you already get the importance. Before there's any explanation of any law, there's the importance of this situation about the firstborn. So let's go to Job chapter 2, because this one part says, what things warrant our Elohim to grant access? And we to get that, we have to go to Job chapter 2. It's a perfect example of us hearing this a situation of access being given to do these things. Job chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 1.
Again, there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahweh. And Satan came also among them to present himself before Yah. And Yahweh said unto Satan,
and Satan came also. And this is a thing that we have to try to, wrap our minds around, as all of these angels are coming to make their appearance. So does Lucifer. You have to consider that in all the things that we might have heard, when it comes down to make that appearance, here he is. Go ahead.
From whence cometh you? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and from the earth, and from walking up and down in it.
Okay.
And Yahweh said unto Satan, Have you considered my servant Job?
All right. So he automatically understands what Lucifer is doing. Because when he says, have you considered, there's no other explanation concerning what he might have considered him for. Just have you considered. Go ahead.
That there's none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears Elohim and escheweth evil, and still he holds fast his integrity, although you move me against him to destroy him without cause.
Now, in the first chapter, he said, does Job fear you for naught? Have you not placed a hedge round about his house and everything he has? Well, he said he's a perfect and upright man. That is how he got this hedge. All right? But the question is, what warrants someone getting access beyond the hedge? Go ahead.
And Satan answered Yahweh and said, Skin for skin, yeah, all that a man has, he will give for his life. But put forth your hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Behold, he is in your hand, but save his life.
But save his life. Now here is that point where a lot of people then attribute, okay, this is the death angel, Lucifer. So then they go into the Azazel. Somebody else came and told me that there was another movie where Denzel was playing in the movie, and it was this demon that was jumping.
Yep.
And that was the same name there. And as we read on the Sabbath day, it comes from the scapegoat, the name for the scapegoat. So understand what that is for. But because we read this portion where the angel is told Lucifer, you must save his life, there's a lot put there, and it's almost like only this angel can take life. And that is a very, very bad assumption to make. So then we have to deal with what warrants this authority being given. Go ahead.
It's interesting. I just touch while we're here with Job. I heard some conversation recently about, Israelites that haven't sinned or people who haven't sinned and was upright. Job's name come up, and, we got people, you can't count Job because he was Esau. And my whole thing is, it don't matter. In a perfect example, what did Yahweh just say about him? My servant Job.
And who designates who somebody is anyway? And now they're judged by that, by who they are. That's quite interesting, in how we disqualify a righteous man.
Exactly.
By what nationality he is.
But some of the Hebrew groups, that's their whole thing. If it's Israel or nobody else.
Exactly.
And and to be known, most of them are not Israel, because when we talk about being under the blood of the Lamb, we were under the blood right as we read during this Passover, the shedding of blood. In this new form, we are under the blood by being baptized. Mm-hmm. Those individuals ain't doing either one. They ain't sacrificing no lamb, and they haven't been baptized. So how are they in this anyway? And I'm talking about people who have the desire to get baptized and they, can't afford to make the trip. That's something altogether different. No. I'm talking about, generations of individuals who have decided that they are not going to deal with anything of the nature. So that's something altogether different. Go ahead. Did you have something?
Verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of Yahweh, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot onto his crown.
Now, he has authority to do this. But the question is, why? Remember, he said he holds fast his integrity. So when you ask the question about what causes this, Yahweh is getting him some glory. It's nothing about what he did. But that doesn't mean that another situation can't be that. Okay? So we have to make sure that we don't limit our Elohim. He is the Elohim of heaven and earth and all that in them is. So here it's being allowed, but let's say another situation, the person walks outside of the hedge. Another situation, when you deal with how Yahweh protected King David. He protected him until he did that thing with Uriah's wife. He opened the hedge. This was Yahweh said from the get-go, this is a man after mine own heart. And even in the explanation, go throughout the volume of the book and see if you read anything like this, where a man commits adultery, and Yahweh's answer is, man, I gave you your master's house and your master's wives. That was 10 right there. If that wasn't enough, I would have gave you. Tell me who else. You ever heard anything about that Yahweh say, I gave you 10 wives, and if you needed some more, all you had to do was tell me.
Right.
I would have given them to you. All you had to do was ask. So when you talk about the situations that happened from Dawi's sons, that hedge was opened up by Yahweh, but it was Dawi's own doing. And understand something. In these things, did not death result? Death came in with that. Now, was that any specific death angel? Did he have to be? No, it was time. It was time to pay the toll. But you got to think, sometimes by the time Yahweh offers you, you know what I'm saying, by the time he bring the invoice, you done forgot what you bought. See, it says you shall reap what you have sown. See, you about to get what you done put in. But by the time you get it, you done forgot that you put it in. Okay? So, here we go. Dawi's hedge was removed because of his own dealings. Job's hedge was removed so that Yahweh can get some glory. Two hedges moved, two totally different reasons why they were moved. Go ahead.
You know, when you look at this whole death angel thing, you go back to Exodus. Yahweh said, so the plague won't.
The destroyer.
So now you got to even look at that. What you always talk about how they sell us back our own story, right? But they also using our own story to kill us off. Because when we get these mass things come through, what they call them, plagues. Even though it's man now diabolically making them, it's still a plague.
It's a plague.
Right.
So do we blame the death angel for that, or is it what it is? It's a plague.
You know, not only that, man. It's just, you know, how we deal with something. You know, who opened up the hedge for it to even come to us? Because you didn't have to ask yourself, out of nowhere, this last pandemic that they had, all of a sudden, for the first time, we've heard, you know, African Americans should be the first one to get it. They deserve. Now, we don't deserve reparation. And ain't nobody, you know, it is amazing to me how intelligently stupid we are. That we got to the point where we actually believe. Now, your ancestors was so rape, murder, everything, but you deserve to get
this plague.
You know, now hold on. You deserve to get the untested new thing that ain't never been used on nobody else. Man, you can't, come on, bro. You can't. We should have been forced to buy a ticket for this movie because this is drama right here. You hear me? This is drama. All of a sudden, the people who have done absolutely nothing but harm you, and I have to remind people, the Tuskegee experiment was backed by the CDC and the U.S. Health Department. Understand, this is officially U.S. business, but we limit it by saying it's Tuskegee. All right. So then some angels come. What we saw is a hedge being opened, and we refuse to do the things that need to be done to close the hedge back up. Okay. That's where we're running into our problems. Go ahead.
And that's the thing that said if you don't believe in something, you fall for anything. And unfortunately, the Christian way is not really the way. Even though we should be able to see all of those things, they have never given us anything first. They have never.
No.
Should have been able to see through that, but we felt.
You would think.
Yeah, I would.
You would think. Matter of fact, normally when we find out something is when the law changed. Everybody was getting bankruptcy, and boy, they was having fun. They was like, "Oh my God, the niggers done found it out." now the law changed every time. Now all of a sudden, they done found this new way of making something, and they need to test it on somebody. And now we deserve to be first. That is most definitely a hedge opened up. Directly coming at us. Okay? Keep reading.
And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself with oil, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Does you still retain your integrity? Curse Elohim and die. But he said unto her, You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of Elohim, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips.
Did not sin with his lips. Now, I want to go to John, Yohanan chapter 11. Because, see, sometimes, we're on this thing, and what would cause Yahweh to allow the hedge to be open and touch us? It's like he said, this man was born blind. Who sinned? Him or his parents? And Yahshua said neither. But that the glory of Elohim might be revealed. Mm-hmm. So we are so self-absorbed that we think everything that happens around us has something to do with us. Sometimes it's Yahweh trying to get his glory. You just happen to be the dude that he used to do it. I am happy that he decide to use me to do a thing or two. But don't get to thinking you extra special. John chapter 11, and let's start that at verse 1.
Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, the town of Miriam and her sister Martha. It was that Miriam which anointed the Adonai with ointment, and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. All
right, so then, we talking inside track right here. Go ahead.
Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Adonai, behold, he whom you loveth is sick.
All right, so at this point, he whom you love is sick. Now that's supposed to make him move. All right, see, this is what there's a line between the individuals who their own business is important to them, and then there's those individuals who Yahweh's business is of the utmost importance to them, and nothing will cause them to get off of their father's business. Go ahead.
When Yahshua heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of Elohim, that the Son of Elohim might be glorified thereby.
Wait a minute. Right off the rip. Now, this is confusing, because he's saying the sickness is not unto death. But watch what happens. Go ahead.
Now Yahshua loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he had heard therefore that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was.
Now they say he must not care. He must. How he gonna stay knowing that he was sick? He should have been running to get there. He should have got on the swift beast. Go ahead.
But you know what, like he said, hey, let Yahweh's will be done, basically. But we as natural people hear the same thing, and we about to cause accidents trying to get to this. Bro, what can you do when you get there?
Right.
Why don't you safely get there, take your time, and protect yourself and everybody else on the highways and byways? Then after that says he to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Yehudis of late sought to stone you, and goeth you thither again? Yahshua answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbles, because there is no light in him. These things said he, and after that he says unto them.
Now, he says that to them. Now, I'm going to tell you, Yahshua deep. Because I'm pretty sure every now and then, you if you do something and it's strange and you in front of a dog, the dog will do this. Like, what is wrong with this cat right here? He says the Yehudim of late sought to stone you. And go you there again? Now, I don't know how he, this answer is the ultimate in political answer. Are there not 12 hours in a day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbles not, because he sees the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. I'm sure they were looking at him like, what? But when we ask you, see, there's certain things you got to sit on here like, yeah, it might be 4 years before you understand what I'm talking about.
So you mean we can see the rocks coming at us?
You
Daytime?
know,
See 'em at night?
it's like, what angle you going at here? Kiri?
Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep.
Now, hold on now. He said that this sickness is not unto death. And then he stayed 2 more days. Okay, so if he already knows that, he knows for what purpose it's done, then this means that even the good can have their hedge opened up if Yahweh is going to get some glory out of it. I mean, if you're a servant, what else should you be about other than attempting to get the glory for your Elohim? Go ahead.
Then said his disciples, Adnai, if he sleeps, he shall do well. Howbeit Yahshua spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. Then said Yahshua unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead.
See, he couldn't keep going with that parable thing. He couldn't keep going. Well, the sun sets, and then it comes back. Look, he dead. All right, man, I ain't got time for that. Come on, look, we could have been halfway there. Trying to explain this to y'all. So he didn't do that with the other saying. Go ahead.
And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go on.
Check this out. I'm glad that I was not there. See, so wait a minute. So does Yeshua become a death angel? No. I'm gonna let him do what he do, and I'm glad. I'm not coming. I mean, I'm gonna come, but not when y'all send for me. Because see, my Father is about to get some glory out of this, because who my Father has chosen is about to get some glory out of this. See? Go ahead.
Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him.
Now even that is simple. He tried to make it simple. And here come Didymus. Boy. Go ahead.
Then when Yahshua came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already.
And anybody that know anything, a body that's been in the grave 4 days without any embalming or any of that stuff that we have convinced people to let us do today. That's why, what should be $100 funeral turns into $26,000. Because we have convinced people to do all these things. Man, these poor people ain't had that kind of money. Yet, 4 days, they in the grave. See? But you let us, now we got to call every member in the family. Excuse me, I speak Junebug. Junebug, now you know Auntie meant a lot to you now. Come on now. What you got toward this funeral? Now you got to make these calls all the way. Why? Because we going to try to do it the way the nations have told us, so we need them $20,000. Now, people got in our head, now we got to get the finest of caskets. See? We going to CadillacCaskets.com, you know, so we can get the diamond in the back with the sunroof top. You know what I'm saying? So we got a casket with a sunroof in it. Then you can see, even with it closed, I still saw Auntie. Look at that, right through the moonroof. And we done spent gobs of money for this, listening to these people. Yet, poor people can bury somebody in days. So what that tell you? That the nations brought over their mess and they are enslaving us with even the simple thought process. Go ahead.
Now Bethany was near unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Yehudis came to Martha and Miriam to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Yahshua was coming, went and met him. But Miriam sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Yahshua, Adonai, if you had been here, my brother had not died.
Whoa. Now, you see, the belief is strong, but the belief is limited. See, in the belief that she has, he has to be physically there to do it. See, we don't see that when we look. We think this is our faith. This is what we believe. Well, hold on. How do you believe? Because even in this love and belief that they have, they still think that he has to physically be there to make that happen. Go ahead.
That's, it's 2 times that, he showed the limited belief, because when he was talking to them about, are you going, into Jerusalem, the Yehudis start to stone
you there.
He was telling them, a man, it's a song, that the children used to sing, we must work while it is day.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's telling them, okay, I have work to do. You work while it's light.
Mm-hmm.
You don't wait until the dark. You work. I have a set period of time to do this. So he's challenging them in both places, on their belief system.
He challenges them from the moment he chose them. He chose them and he cut them as, this is the kind of stuff that made me okay with dealing with my elder. He chose them at 4:45. At 4:52, he was cutting them. They didn't get 30 minutes of candlelight, wordsmanship. He was Adam, Jack, and no matter what, he was always teaching. Yes. He never stopped. Even when he talked that there's certain things, when you talk about it, he was always about it. Don't you know that I had to be about my father's business? Mm-hmm. So what they are, okay, you are, they're gonna stone you. I must be about this business. Mm-hmm. And we allow a whole lot of things to get us off of that business. A rush of mighty wind, all of a sudden, our focus is gone. And that, does something to us. And we have to get past that. So they have this faith, but they believe that he has to do this. So opening up this hedge then, which, going back to the original question, then becomes a faith builder. Now, where we look at it as a part where somebody's chopped down, that there's loss, look at the building that comes from this. Go ahead.
It's like you're talking about with the constant chopping down of them from the get-go. Mm-hmm. I think people don't realize they were traveling companions. They were together all the time. We get people that we see 1 or 2 days out the week, and we get on them and they say, I don't want to be around y'all no more.
1 or 2 times, right.
You only seen them 1, maybe 2 days out the week.
And you know how much Yahshua got on them? I mean, Yahshua stayed on them, you know? And then even told them it's because your unbelief. Man, we following you, bruh. How you gonna tell us that we got unbelief, bruh? We dropped everything we had to follow you. And then you gonna tell us we in unbelief? Where are you? Come on, bruh.
There's levels of unbelief.
Of course it is. Because he expected a way higher level. Y'all with me. So you have to believe differently than them over there.
And also, it was a crash course because he know his time was limited.
Right.
We still come up in here thinking we got time. None of us know the time.
Exactly.
So we getting on you and trying to correct certain things. Keep running. Keep thinking you got time. We understand that our time is limited.
Hey.
And we got work to do.
Once somebody sit on that on that table, you know what I'm saying, with them tubes and probes, all of them, then they'll understand. Don't play around with this time that you think you have. You know, that sometimes people have to have that before they can recognize, and other people, they have it in them to be able to learn from somebody else's, you know, situation. That way they don't have to endure it. They can look at it and say, oh, no, not doing that. No, note to self. Give me a pen. I'm going to write that down. I got it. Not going to do that. Go ahead.
But I know that even now, whatsoever you will ask of Elohim, Elohim will give it you. Yahshua says unto her, your brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day.
So she already expected those things. She never expected heaven. She never and this is where you get back to all of these things about our fascination of angels, you know? And let me tell you something. I'm not telling you this one thing, you know, and saying, you know, hey man, I never fell victim of that. I have a fake angel tattoo going from the top of my arm coming all the way down to my elbow, and every time I look at it, what a dumbass. So understand something. You have to be very careful with this thing that will then lead you into what? A voluntary humility of worshiping of angels. Okay? You know, I ain't telling you something I just stumbled across. I'm telling you something that we, you know, a lot of us had to live through and make it through. Okay? Go ahead.
Yahshua said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Believeth you this? She says unto him, Yes, Adonai. I believe that you are the Mashiach, the son of Elohim, which should come into the world. And when she had so said, she went her way, and called Miriam her sister secretly, saying, The master is come, and calls for you. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came on to him. Now Yahshua was not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. The Yehudis then which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Miriam, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goes on to the grave to weep there. Then when Miriam was come where Yahshua was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Adonai, if you had been here, my brother had not died.
Okay. You know, we understand. Okay, this is that thing. You know, this limitation. Okay. But the opening of the hedge has a purpose. Go ahead.
As you can look, that's the constant thought process. Martha said it, if you'd been here, he would not died. Here come Miriam, if you'd been here, he would not died.
You see this thing. So you learn how we operate. This is how we operate. This is our mentality. If you had been here, this would not have happened. Go ahead.
When Yahshua therefore saw her weeping, and the Yehudis also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, and was troubled, and said, Where have you laid him? They said unto him, Adonai, come and see. Yahshua wept. Then said the Yehudis, Behold how he loved him. And some of them said, could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died?
Now look at all these questions now. Now, could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even that this man should not have died? Now, they're questioning him.
If he'd been here, he would have not died.
Check this out. Now he's coming into question. So you now start to see how multifaceted it is for a hedge to be opened and Yahweh to let something happen to you. See, we have to ask ourselves, is it about that happened to you? Or is it about you coming back from that happened to you? So yes, I could focus on, man, out of all my whole family, I take more, herbs, and I took all these vitamins and all of these things, and I got hit worse than anybody. Most people only live 9 days on a ventilator. I was on 30. Was it about what happened to me? Or was it about Yahweh getting some glory at me marching up out of there in complete culture when I walked out of there? I mean, it's a complete, everybody, they looking from door to door. It was like, the president is marching down the halls because all of them saying, ain't no way he supposed to be leaving out here. And I made sure, I said, no, bring me a good, I tell you what, I can't wear none of my clothes no more. Buy me something new. Buy me something new. I'm leaving out of here fly. Now, I might not be able to walk. Give me a good cane too. Give me a good cane. Because we coming up out of here. So, what is it about? See, sometimes the hedge might be removed because you asked it. Now, who would ask, Yahweh, come through and just slap me. Just slap me all over and drag me across the lawn. No. You didn't ask him that. What you did was you asked, you know what? Father, I would like to be completely independent. Father, I would like to be, and he like, okay, and what else you want? All right, look, prayer granted. Now, to do that, I'm going to have to damn near kill you. But I'm going to bring you through now, you know what I'm saying? But I'm going to damn near kill you. I'm going to stretch this thing out, you know what I'm saying? It's going to absolutely horrify your family. But that thing that you asked for, when you learn how to walk again, you're going to get it. And I'm merciful. But then you look, wait a minute, this is what you asked for. You asked for this. The problem is you didn't know how he was going to do it. You see? Go ahead.
You were saying when you walk again, there was also something in there. When you walk, you're going to walk differently this time too.
Yep. Sure are. I say, hey, when you get a second chance, you do it differently. A fool gets up from a near-death experience and do the same thing that they did before they got in the near-death experience. Go ahead.
Yahshua therefore again groaning in himself comes to the grave. It was a cave and a stone lay upon it. Yahshua said, take you away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, says unto him, Adonai, by this time he stinks, for he has been dead 4 days. Yahshua says unto her, said I not unto you that if you would believe, you should see the glory of Elohim?
Now, 4 days. Let me tell you something. Sometimes it be a week before folk have funeral. Look at how, if you got all this money and all this preparation, we got to send out invitations, and then we got to write on there, we got, Sister Keita, she got to put a poem on there, and everybody got to put all the best pictures, and while you doing that, they say, hey, such and such died, meet us on top of the hill. There go your program. 4 days. That lets you know they wasn't dumping all of this stuff in them bodies that they charging us all this money for. Go ahead.
Brother, in this day and age, you put together a funeral in 4 days, you going to hear it from the distant family members.
Oh my God, are you ever? You didn't even make time for any of us. He grew up over here, but we can't get down there. Okay, go ahead.
Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Yahshua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I knew that you heareth me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that you have sent me.
Look at that. Look at that. All of this has a purpose. Go ahead.
And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face bound about with a napkin. Yahshua says unto them, Loose him and let him go.
Now, you have to even examine another part of this. The sheep obey the voice of the shepherd. The shepherd calls his sheep. Even in death, the sheep get up. And people are like, no, I don't want to, this is what people think when they say they're leading themselves. I don't want to be like the sheeple. Them people over there, they sheeples. They just led about. The sheep heard the voice of his shepherd, even in death. Goats don't do that. See, you can call a goat all you want. Goat gonna do what a goat wanna do. Just like you see people, there are people who come, there's sheep that come up to keep the Sabbath, and there are goats that come to keep the Sabbath. The goats gonna do what they wanna do. You know what I'm saying? The sheep are gonna be about, okay, what are the instructions? What are we supposed to be about? What do we need to be doing to do such and such? The goats, they ain't gonna even ask you. You let a goat in. 2 minutes later, the goat at the front blowing the wrong shofar. Who in the hell told you to pull that out?
One's led about, the other one just roams about.
So you got one goat doing one thing, the other goat all somewhere peeking in your bedroom. What the hell are you doing? Goats do what they want to do. Sheep, listen. The sheep heard the voice and got up. And the same thing that happens. You call the sheep, they move. Go ahead.
Sheep travel in groups. They're not lone rangers like that. That's not the way that happens, and it confuses me when I hear some of the Hebrews talk about, well, you don't really need, a structured setting.
Right.
And so when you go in the book and it tells you that you need to have a holy convocation. A holy convocation
is a gathering.
It's a gathering. It's a place that is public to people, where people can gather. So how do you equate that with the nature of sheep and tell them they could be like a lone ranger and do it on their own?
You can be like a lone goat.
Exactly.
And the goat just all over everywhere, eating your clothing, just eating anything it can get near, and that's what happened. People spend so much time being a goat, then when it's convenient for them, they'll come around and want to be a sheep. Here's the problem: you don't learn all them goat ways, and over time, them goat ways gonna come out. I want to go to, let's deal with this here. I'm new to this walk and having trouble marrying the Old Testament with the New pertaining to the laws. Can you please help me reconcile this? I seem to be having trouble with the letters mostly. The first thing you have to understand about the letters, we have this problem. Well, we believe that everything is said to us. This is what happened when we nose as hell, too. When we nose as hell, we want to know everything about everything. And everything don't concern you. You have to understand that when reading this book. There are letters that are dealing with specific things. That don't mean they got nothing to do with you. Okay? You have to always consider who's talking and who are they talking to. least you jump up like people do. Come in the middle of a conversation. Take that what you done misheard and go get yourself killed. Because you thought the instructions that were being given was also for you. They were talking to that person, not you. So when you're dealing with these letters, you need to wrap your brain around these things are specific situations, and you have to think about the letters are things that you're hearing one side of. You may be hearing the answer to a question that you didn't hear. In certain situations, it talks about, I've heard that there be fornication among you. So you know, all right, this is what this is about. But there are other instances where he may be going in, but you don't really know ultimately who it was, why it was, what led up to it, what happened after it happened. You don't know any of that. So keep that in mind when you're talking about the things of the letters. Understand that these letters are being wrote, epistles, are being written to people who are around two different areas of worship. You have the Jews and the Gentiles, which have different paths leading to the same place. So when that happens, when the letters are written and you don't know which part of it pertains to you, then you are definitely going to have some issues. So you have to, stay there and deal with that. It says, parts like nothing is unclean of itself, but to those who think it's unclean, to them it is. So, or one man regards the day as holy, and another regards all days alike. So let every man be persuaded in his own mind. Or the law was only a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, but now we're under a better covenant. When you deal with all of these things, you have to deal with that they're bringing different individuals into this hedge, if you will. Now, because they're coming from different areas and different walks, Yahweh places a different thing for them to do. They have certain things that they are really prone to. So he's like, all right, focus on this right here. We'll worry about the rest later. Focus on this, because these couple of things are going to really get you into some trouble. And when you talk about the schoolmaster, there's certain things that I want to read before, I go into that. But it's the word clearly does show how indeed Yahshua was the schoolmaster, or the law was a schoolmaster to bring us unto the Mashiach, because of this better sacrifice that we have. So I want to hold off right there. Let's go to Romans chapter 2. Romans chapter 2 and started at verse 9.
Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that does evil, of the Yehudi first, and also of the Gentile.
All right, so then the order is the children of Israel have to get punished first before the Gentiles. See, we don't like that. We don't like that. Go ahead.
But glory, honor, and peace to every man that works good, to the Yehudi first, and also to the Gentile.
Well, we okay with that one. We okay with that one. We like that one. Go ahead.
For there is no respect of persons with Elohim. For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law, and as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law.
Well, wait a minute now. So now he's breaking down this thing of judgment. For as many as have sinned without law shall also die without law. And as many as have sinned in the law, they shall be judged by the law. So Rather be judged, by 12 than carried by 6. Go ahead.
For not the hearers of the law are just before Elohim, but the doers of the law shall be justified.
Okay.
For when the Gentiles, which have not the law,
The Gentiles didn't stand before the mount. The Gentiles didn't receive the lively oracles. Okay. Go ahead.
do by nature the things contained in the law, these, having not the law, are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another.
Now wait a minute, if the law is written in their heart, but Israel got to wear fringes so that they can remember the law. Wait a minute, so the law in their heart and the law on our shirt. So then we end up with the law on the outside and somebody else end up with the law on the inside. Come on now, come on. So somebody bump into you, brother, move, you done wiped off my law. Go ahead.
In the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshua HaMashiach, according to my gospel, behold, you are called a Yehudi, and resteth in the law, and make your boast of Elohim, and knoweth his will, and approveth the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law, and are confident that you yourself are a guide of the blind, a light unto them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth of the law. You therefore which teaches another, teacheth you not yourself? You that preaches a man should not steal, does you steal?
Now wait a minute. When you start talking about the things, concerning the law, this is all law that he's talking about. This is New Testament. And this is all law. Go ahead.
You that says a man should not commit adultery, does you commit adultery?
Now, it's easy to read that and say, no, I don't commit no adultery. Wait. Yahshua says, whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery. And then he who marries her commits adultery. So then I contraire, mon frere. Let's go back here. Thou that says a man should not commit adultery, does you commit adultery? So then you have to ask, well, wait a minute. Did you, and this is how we do, especially when we want to make the appearance of righteousness, then we get into the serial monogamy, where we leave one situation to get in another situation, and then we leave that situation to get in another situation, and then we leave that situation to get in another situation, and then we say, God, my hands are clean. You know my heart. Wait a minute. So when you then read this, does you commit adultery? Then we have to ask ourselves, well, wait a minute. Do you even have the right definition of adultery? See, a lot of times we're so busy trying to go and get the 613 laws, statutes, and judgments, and we getting all of this. I'm gonna need you to focus on this 10. I'm gonna need you to get in with the 10. All right, get in with the 10. Understand all the levels of this. Because there are people standing in the midst of adultery and swear, God knows my heart. But wait a minute. It was the New Testament that said, if you divorce your wife and marry another, you have committed adultery. I didn't say that. The Old Testament is not where that come from. That come from Yahshua. So when people start saying some things, you got to think about it. They think the Old Testament is difficult. Let me tell you something. Yahshua made it way more difficult than most. People are like, see, y'all dealing with that bondage. See, that's what y'all dealing with, that bondage. Wait a minute. Christ said, if you are angry with your brother without a cause, you have murdered him already. Wait a minute. You now it's thoughts and intentions. Whereas the old law was judged by actions. Okay? The new law is judged by intentions. What do you intend to do with this? What do you intend to do with him, to do with her? Wait a minute. So we think the other one was more difficult. I don't think you're looking at that right. I don't think you're looking at that right. See, that's the part that we end up missing. Go ahead, brother.
You that abhorreth idols, does you commit sacrilege? You that maketh your boast of the law, through breaking the law dishonoreth you Elohim? For the name of Elohim is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. For circumcision verily profits, if you keep the law. But if you be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made uncircumcision.
Now, wait a minute. So now you have two manner of people. You have the circumcision and the uncircumcision. The circumcision are the children of Israel. The uncircumcision, those are the Gentiles. So then there are two different paths. If you're reading one writing that's dealing with two groups of people, but you have merged those two people together, oh, yes, you're going to be confused. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, you're going to be so confused. You have made two people, and this is some of that crazy street preacher doctrine. We have become the Gentiles. Wait a minute. So we the Jews and the Gentiles? So we Gentiles? What? You damn right you confused. And you keep listening to that purple doctrine, your head gonna pop off and purple smoke gonna come out of it. How we gonna be both of them? That doctrine don't make no sense. Go ahead, did you have something?
Yeah, I think, in dealing with the Hebrews that we have out there, a lot of them, their minds are closed. I had a sister to approach me, where she refused to understand that, the Apostle Paul was sent to the Gentiles, and these letters that we were reading were to, like this, when you go in the book of Romans, chapter 1, it says to those in Rome. They're Romans, they're Italian people. And so when you won't recognize the fact that the door of the church was open to Europeans, we go into these books based upon that slanted Hebrew teaching, and we're looking for ourselves in the New Testament only. And when we run into other people, then, they reconcile it by doing what you just said. That now we're Gentiles.
Right.
And it confuses people. I don't think they're looking at the fact that, Yah opened those doors so that Europeans can come in. And if you think the book is just about us, it's our book. Yeah, but other people can be saved, not just Hebrews.
Well, if we're gonna be a kingdom of priests, what we gonna be priests over? What kind of sense did that make? Go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, well, if you look at this explanation, yeah, they Gentiles because they're the uncircumcision. Because it says, what it says right here, but if you be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made uncircumcision. They breaking the law. They might as well. You're right. You go ahead and claim Gentile because you breaking the law every which way you go.
It's interesting that it causes so much confusion because of this jumping in and out, and like I had said before, whenever someone goes and gets a full priest garment, and then pass a whole thing saying that you should not have anything on your head. What do you think the head covering come from? Why did you put on all that other stuff? What was the purpose of putting all this other stuff on and you're not going to cover your head? Basically, you're saying, I am not under authority of Elohim. That's what you're saying.
Brother, it says the Gentiles seek after wisdom. We seek after knowledge.
We seek after a sign.
We seek after a solid sign. Now, when you look at Catholicism, which is where Christianity broke off from, the man who's leading Catholicism got on his robe down to his foot. And what is not missing? The head covering is not missing. You never see him without the head covering. So he dug deep enough in here to know how the heck he must attire himself in the position he's trying to claim belongs to him.
Right. And we know whenever somebody trying to rob, they play the whole part, don't they? You ever seen somebody go and rob a bank? don't they put on the ski mask and the glove? All right, so they play the full part. So if somebody's gonna rob you of your culture, they're gonna put on the whole outfit. But here we go, we gonna put on half the outfit.
Disobedient and gainsaying.
You know, and think, you know, we in sport about it. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5.
Start.
Started at verse 13.
You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it gives light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
So then now we have to ask ourselves, what things did he fulfill? You know, so when we talk about certain objects contained in the law, we have to consider what things did Yahshua fulfill. He couldn't do away with adultery. He didn't commit it. He couldn't do away with bearing false witness. He ain't tell no lies. So what things could he have fulfilled that would be taken away? Animal sacrifice. That covers an entire area of the law. There's the law of animal sacrifice. Then there are the many laws within sacrifice that are directly connected to sacrificial law. So then we're not just talking about one thing of sacrificial law. When sacrificial law is set aside, there are a host of other laws that have to be put on pause because you're not doing that. Go ahead.
For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said of them, by them of old time.
Now, this old time is the law. So the question was, I have a problem dealing with the marrying of the old law and the new law. All right. What? When you put them side by side, most of the time you rather keep the old. And when you say that, people say, "Oh no." All right, read.
You know, it's interesting with this whole, he came and did away with the law, right? He's saying, don't think I come to destroy the law, but to fulfill. They say, okay, he fulfilled the law, so we ain't got to do that no more. But after he says that, then he goes into, if you break the law. Why didn't he just go say, and after I fulfill it, then you ain't got to worry about the law?
There it is. There it is. See?
He goes right into breaking down, if you break this, if you break that, if you break that. But yet, I came to fulfill it. You have heard that it was said by them of old time, you shall not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment.
All right, so right now he's marrying the Old Testament with the New. Go ahead.
But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment.
You done killed him already. But you ain't swung. You ain't done nothing. You walking around angry with your brother. What did he do to you? You angry with him without a cause. You are guilty. But under the old law, I ain't done nothing yet. See, I haven't done it. I'm just walking around with rocks in my jaws and I'm chewing on them rocks. Wait a minute. He said you're guilty. So when you then think about it, it was easier with the old law. Because the new law is causing me to have to deal with something in here. The old law didn't make me deal with nothing in here. The old law didn't make me deal with none of that. See? So we hear things from people, and those people make us think that, you know, the old law is just brutal. That old God, he was just mean. But we're not reading the stuff that Yahshua has said concerning those things. And Yahshua's is much more difficult. Go ahead.
And that is the magnification of the law, that he said, I'm going to magnify the law and make it honorable.
And even with that, as he's breaking this down after saying I come to fulfill the law, he's letting you know for breaking it, there's punishment.
Right.
There's going to be judgment.
Every time he went to court, something happened. Whether you just got probation or something was handed down. Okay, go ahead.
And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire.
Now we know we done said way more than that. Go ahead.
Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar, and there remembrance that your brother has aught against you.
Man, I done seen people say all manner of things against a brother who helped them, turn around and march right up to the altar like it ain't nothing. Right. Go ahead.
Leave there your gift before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift.
And they'll be confused. You know, that when they come to give something and it's given back. You might well stop. It ain't being accepted no way. See, maybe in the places where we were, those people were so interested in giving and receiving money that they would go ahead and take it. They get confused and nah, take that back. Go ahead and buy you a case of beer. You'll have more fun with it.
Let's go back up to the top, though. It says, you shall be in danger of the council. Who's the council?
Mm-hmm. Them people who we run past and we don't want to be with because they been talking, you know what I'm saying? You know, understand, you got something with, you got a righteous and an unrighteous. Mm-hmm. We rather go hang out with the unrighteous council. Do understand, Yahweh got one. You going to have to deal with them.
Well, you know, I don't want to deal with them because they make me feel funny. You know, when I be around them, they be telling me the stuff I be doing wrong, and I don't like it. When?
Go ahead.
So when the council decrees something, it stands.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is that not part of the law? Mm-hmm. Look, you know, have them, instead of having them around you all day, put some other people. They deal with those people. When there are hard matters, they bring that to you. That's Supreme Court. You don't go to Supreme Court every day. You ain't going to Moshe every day. You going to some other people. And that gives those individuals an opportunity to do some works. Hey man, you've been in this word for a while. Deal with that. When it comes to something that's slightly questionable, that you got any kind of question in your heart, then you bring it to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court don't hear every case. Go ahead.
Agree with your adversary quickly while you are in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver you to the judge, and the judge deliver you to the officer, and you be cast into prison. Verily I say unto you, you shall by no means come out thence till you have paid the uttermost farthing. You have heard that it was said by them of old time,
Old Testament,
you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you,
Uh-oh.
that whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart.
Wait a minute. We're ready to go back to Moses' law right now. Because the stuff that they wear, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. What? There are clothes that don't qualify to be clothes. That you can completely see the articles. You'd be like,
Excuse me, but I see buttons.
Did you say close or close?
I see buttons. And I don't know if those buttons are supposed to turn something on or something off, but something been turned. I don't know what it is, but I see buttons.
now, wait a minute. Does that cause you to have a thought in your heart? Well, guess what you have just done? Wait a minute. We have a problem dealing with the law. Trust me, the more you understand about Yahshua, the more you gonna want Moses' law.
And the husband is standing right there with the one with the buttons showing you.
He the one bought it.
But you got some problems on your head.
And you keep looking. He bought it because he wants you to look.
Yeah, but he gonna pay for that too.
See? So here we go in this situation. Look at this. This is the ultimate reading when people say, you know, they're having issues dealing with whether or not they should deal with the Old Testament or the New. Understand how he has magnified this law. Understand. I mean, that is, oh my God, it's so much greater. Because think about all the things that we could have done in our mind, and we could say in the Old Testament, I've not done anything because, I was not caught in the act. Now, look at this. Keep reading.
You know, brother, with that question of the Old Testament law versus the New Testament, it would behoove you to stick on the New Testament, because what he says, unless your righteousness exceeds the Pharisees and the scribes.
Who are the lawyers?
Right. So I'm going to go with New Testament, please.
Hey, this is where it gets interesting. But when you take a glance, wait a minute, this causes you to deal with in here. And we don't want to deal with that. See? We want to deal with out there. We don't want to deal with in here. This causes you to deal with in here. And that was the whole purpose. And this is how the law was a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. There's several levels on that, but we're going to get to a little bit more of that. Go ahead.
And if your right eye offend you, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into hell. And if your right hand offend you, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and not that the whole body should be cast into hell. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement.
It was said. Where it was said at? Old Testament. Here you go. Look, you ain't got to make nothing up. All you got to do is go to the place and read it. He is constantly comparing Old Testament and New Testament. And half of these people who talking about they walking in the New Testament, they gonna walk out of the New Testament the more he explain it. Keep going.
But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication.
Okay, wait a minute. Did she mess around? Okay, go ahead.
Causes her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commits adultery.
Right. Now tell me they ain't ready to go back to Moshe. Now, because let me tell you why. Because this is what a lot of them people do. So that they can say, I don't believe in multiple marriage. They just believe in multiple issues of monogamy. So they believe in monogamy and multiplicity. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Monogamy means one, right? They have one many times. One. Sound like an engine running. One. Cut your engine off, man. There's too many ones over there. One. Okay, so they have multiplicity in their monogamy, and Christ was already dealing with it. So you think, go into some of them congregations where they say, we don't believe in no multiple marriage. Find out that one brother been married to 15 sisters in there, and they just pass them around like cookies. They're like trading cards. All right. I'll give you a Keisha, you give me a Tammy. All right. What the hell are y'all doing? Right. They playing them games. And Yahshua already knew about them games. See? Because we want the fun without the responsibility attached to that. Keep reading, brother.
Again, you have heard that it has been said by them of old time, you shall not forswear yourself, but shall perform unto the Adonai your oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Elohim's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black.
Jump to verse 38.
You have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
And we know where it was said. Okay, go ahead.
But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, But whosoever shall smite you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also.
Which one you think is harder to do? Somebody do something to you and you hunt them down? Or turn the other cheek? Which one you think is more difficult? Right. Go ahead.
And if any man shall sue you at the law, and take away your coat, let him have your cloak also.
Tell me that ain't more difficult. Go ahead.
And whosoever shall compel you to go a mile, go with him too.
Right. But people keep telling, the law was nailed to the cross, blah, blah, blah. Right. But are you dealing with this stuff right here? Go ahead.
Give to him that asks you, and from him that would borrow of you, turn not you away. You have heard that it has been said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans the same? Be you therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect.
All right, let's go to Galatians chapter 5.
You see that verse 47, if you salute your brethren only, that's the whole process of putting them fringes on.
Right, so we'll know who are brothers in the faith, and then we're going to only speak to the people who got the fringes on. Sometimes, the fringers will come up to you and they be, brother, where you fringes at? Well, shalom to you too, bro. This how the fringers start a conversation? Like I said, I'm not against fringes, but if the law is in my heart, what I need to wear it on my shirt every day for? Let's go. Go ahead and start at verse 1.
Galatians 5.
Galatians 5.
Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith the Mashiach has made us free. And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage.
Wait a minute. Then this is what people will say. Wait a minute. What are they dealing with? To have this atonement for sin, they had to go get an animal without blemish, sacrifice that animal, and shed the blood of that animal for atonement of their sin. Then that becomes bondage. Why? It is very, very meticulously implemented. It is not something that you can just do any old kind of way. There are some serious rules and regulations. Okay? Go ahead.
Behold, I, Saul, say unto you, that if you be circumcised, the Mashiach shall profit you nothing.
Wait a minute now. We talking about Galatians. We talk about Galatia. He's talking to these individuals saying that if you be circumcised, that the Mashiach shall profit you nothing. Why? You wasn't called in circumcision. You were called in uncircumcision. But you want to get circumcised. Go ahead.
For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he's a debtor to do the whole law.
Wait a minute. We began this whole thing in Romans chapter 2. That he's giving the explanation between the circumcision and the uncircumcision. Now he's talking to these people saying, wait a minute. Now I understand I'm circumcised, but I'm a Jew. You are trying to do what I do. Stay on your path. Don't get circumcised because that wasn't given unto you. Now, how many Gentiles have gotten circumcision and have now gone around talking about the law's nailed to the cross, baby? Yeah, well, you took the nail out when you went to the doctor. Go ahead.
Yahshua has become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, you are fallen from grace.
Right. You are justified by the law. What is he talking about? That means you need the animal sacrifice. You need all of those things to be justified. And what we like to do is we call certain things law and other things we don't want to call law. It's very interesting. Go to James chapter 2. We're very, very, slick about that. James chapter 2, and let's start at verse 8.
If you fulfill the royal law or according to the scripture.
Wait a minute, royal law? Wait a minute now, wait a minute. I don't remember Moshe talking about no royal law. Wait a minute. Go ahead.
You shall love your neighbor as yourself. You do well.
Okay, wait a minute now. He going somewhere. Go ahead.
But if you have respect to persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all.
All right, now, so he's breaking this down. If you offend in one part of the law, you have offended. It don't matter which point you broke it all. All right. Now, keep reading.
For he that said, do not commit adultery.
Wait a minute, that's law. Wait a minute, hold on. Now we're dealing with law. Now when people say they're having a problem dealing with something, if you catch somebody sneaking out your bedroom where your wife was, are we gonna have some problem? I don't know what to do with you, for I have caught you coming out of my wife's bedroom. I don't think that's gonna be the problem. I don't think that's going to be the problem. See, when we deal with this, we have to let these things that people are trying to pump in our head, there's certain things you got to stop your ears, because what they're trying to do is sugarcoat a whole lot of things. This is law. The Ten Commandments is law. The church will have the Ten Commandments on the wall and breaking them while you're reading them. Go ahead.
For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill.
Wait a minute. Law. Go ahead.
Now if you commit no adultery, yet if you kill, you are become a transgressor of the law. So speak you and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. For he shall have judgment without mercy that has showed no mercy, and mercy rejoices against judgment.
All right. I want to go somewhere else. Let's go to Romans chapter 3. So, whosoever shall keep the whole law and offend in one point is guilty of all. Now, understand what we like to do. This is why you mentioned earlier, it says, unless your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Wait a minute. The scribes and the Pharisees were people who walked in the law. But what did he also say? He said, you pay tithe. He said, you hypocrites. You pay tithe of anise, mint, and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. These things you ought to have done, and not to left the others undone. So, what do we hear? The very ones that say the law is nailed to the cross, every other week is another sermon about tithing. And Creflo, after he done about his plane, he come and tell you, well, I told tithing wrong. I should not have done it by the law. I should have done it, you should have tithed from your heart. Now, but I'm not giving my plane back. Right. James, go ahead.
We start in Romans
3:27.
Where is boasting then? It is excluded. By what law? Of works? No, but by the law of faith.
Wait a minute now. So a lot of times we hear people saying that, this is this thing of faith. But what is this faith based on? This law of faith. What is the law of faith? What? Moshe ain't talking about no law, no faith. What is this? Go ahead.
Therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law.
Wait a minute, without the deeds of the law is the animal sacrifice. Understand, when you deal with animal sacrifice, there's a whole lot of things that are connected with sacrificial law. So these are the deeds of the law that he's speaking of. Because clearly, we've heard Yeshua and the apostle talk about how all these other laws are still into effect. So we know that that's not what he's talking about. So now we get to this part about animal sacrifice, the deeds of the law. Go ahead.
Is he the Elohim of the Yehudis only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? yes, of the Gentiles also. Seeing it is one El, which shall justify the circumcision by faith and uncircumcision through faith.
Wait a minute. You're talking about by and through. Two different paths. So, is it confusing a little when you first start? Yes. Because these things are being written for two different groups of individuals. But everybody who we've learned from before have told us it's one size all fits doctrine, save this for everybody. God loves us all. So then they play that game. And now you're so confused because 1 minute it says left and 1 minute it says right, talking to two different groups. You can't go left and right. But if nobody tells you that he's speaking to another group, then yeah, you think Saul's schizophrenic. You think he ain't taking his medication. Let's go to, I want to read one more thing. Wait, go ahead.
Just verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith?
Thank you. I almost thank you for not letting me skip that.
Elohim forbid. Yea, we establish the law.
We established the law. Thank you for not letting me. Do we make void the law through faith? Others have. Others have. They say that they are not subject unto the law. I want to read one more thing. Let's go to Romans chapter 8. And you hear all of these things and they come out as sayings. They're like Sunday morning parables. They're light and fluffy. But what happens is they go across these things without putting the definition so that there is a heavy level of understanding when it comes to these concepts. So Romans chapter 8 and start that at verse 1.
There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in the Mashiach Yahshua.
Man, that was a whole sermon. I done heard whole sermons on it. They have no condemnation. Oh my God, man, the piano dude never got the rest. And when this sermon was preached, and this is as far as the reading went, right there. Didn't even get to the period. Okay. There is no condemnation to them which are in the Mashiach Yahshua. Go ahead.
Who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life is in Mashiach Yahshua, has made me free from the law of sin and death.
Whoa. What's happening here? Now you understand why there was a whole sermon on verse 1. But no understanding about verse 2. See, the law of the Spirit of life in the anointed one, Yahshua. Wait a minute. See, so people say ain't no such thing as no letter of the law versus spirit of the law. Wait a minute. The law of the Spirit. Okay. Spirit of the law. Okay. All right. Of Yahshua, the Mashiach, have made me free from the law of sin and death. Wait a minute. What is the law of sin and death? Now, we just found out there was a law of faith. Now, what is the law of faith? The law of faith goes directly hand in hand with the law of sin and death. How? Because the law of faith says that I will then accept, in the earlier part of verse 2, the law of the Spirit of life in the Mashiach Yahshua. All right? That deals with that. The law of sin and death means when there is sin, something has to die. Meaning, that's animal sacrifice. Some sin, the law of sin and death. Sin brings forth death. How? When somebody sins, blood must be shed to make atonement for the sin. So then sin brings forth death. This is a thing that is talking about our law. This sacrificial law is what this is dealing with. The law of sin and death. But the law of faith, if I believe that Yeshua died for my sins, then I am made free from the law of sin and death. I no longer have to make sacrifices because I believe that the best entity that have ever stepped foot on this earth was sacrificed for our sins. I cannot possibly offer anything more perfect than that. Go ahead, brother.
I'm just putting it out there for everybody that's listening. Go ask some of you, if you still go to the Christian church, go and ask your preacher that question. What is the law of sin and death? Because you see, it's not in your 10 commandments, so you're not thinking that there's a law of sin and death. And if you're not there, then ask your uppity Christian family members to go ask their preacher and see what the answer is that they come back with.
Let me tell you something, bro. Don't get it twisted and think these folks don't know. Man, you go and ask the preacher what's God's name. They'll tell you Yahweh. Doesn't Joel Osteen,
Yeshua.
You say Yeshua,
Jesus?
like it ain't nothing. He's like, I pray to Yeshua, Yeshua. Like it's two different people. You know. You think they don't know? They know. They just ain't gonna do. They know.
It's not a matter of them not knowing. It's so that y'all can start
understanding.
Getting an understanding.
Throw some of them questions at them, as opposed to getting us. Because what happens when you speak the truth that nobody has ever heard, you are the one that come into question. What you should be asking is, why haven't I ever heard this? Pastor, why haven't I heard this? See? And that's what we don't want to do.
So you can be like your boy, stop listening to them, they gonna break you.
So it's something, man. But we have to know that there's a real push to get us off of everything that connects us to Yahweh. Okay? This is to connect us with anything spiritual. There is a real push to get us away from that. From the foods we eat, to the company we keep, to the people we marry, to the relationships. Everything is about getting us away from our power, because that connects us to Yahweh our Elohim, and that also connects us to his ear. And it is a real push to make sure that he does not hear us, because if he does, the adversary knows that he and his minions are in trouble. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Let's leave out with a prayer. We're going to rise and face the east. All males, remove your head covering, and females always pray with their head covered. Abba Father, Most High Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Abba Father, we thank you for this opportunity to read out of the legacy that you have left unto us. We also thank you, Father, for the questions that are sent in, because it not only helps those who send the questions, Abba Father, it helps all those who listen. Abba Father, it even helps us when they ask us the questions. It gives us an opportunity to grow. You even reveal some things unto us that we had not thought about when we get questions from somebody else. Thank you, Abba Father, for you are such a wonderful Elohim, and you are truly worthy to be praised and worshiped and served, Abba Father. We pray that you would continually show us how to serve you in truth and in righteousness. We pray, Abba Father, that you would keep a hedge round about us, round about our homes, and round about our little sanctuary, our little place of worship. And we pray, Abba Father, that you would give us a very, very positive transition in all of the things that you lead us to do. We ask these prayers not only for those that gather with us physically, but even those that gather in their own homes to watch us as we go through these things in the legacy that you have left unto us. We pray, Father, that you would see them as even being physically amongst us. In Yeshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name we pray. Amen and hallelujah.
Amen. Hallelujah.